It was a cold, silent night, and the wind whispered through the empty streets as the final echoes of Isha prayer faded from the masjid nearby. Under the dim streetlight beside the masjid gate lay a man wrapped in a worn-out shawl, shivering, hungry, and tired. His name was Salim, a man whose life had once been simple yet peaceful, running a small tea stall in a busy neighborhood, smiling at customers, living with dignity, and thanking Allah for every breath. But life took an unexpected turn when one evening, a spark from a faulty gas stove set his small stall on fire, eating away every cup, every jar, every dream he had built with years of hard work. The tea stall, his only source of livelihood, was gone in minutes. His earnings vanished, his savings exhausted, and his roofless nights began. In just a few days, life changed so drastically that the man who once served tea to others now couldn't afford a cup of it for himself. But despite the hardship, Salim did not blame fate. He did not cry to people. He cried only to Allah, for he believed tests didn't break a believer. They strengthened him. With his little belongings in a small bag and his heart heavy, he walked miles each day searching for work, knocking at doors, seeking mercy from people, but people turned away. Even those who once praised his manners now avoided his eyes. One evening, hungry, exhausted, and with nowhere to go, he arrived at the masjid. The masjid, where people find peace, where hearts soften, and where tears find meaning, felt like the only place left for him. He sat outside, leaning against the cold wall, watching people walk out after prayer. Some saw him but looked away. Some noticed but pretended not to. Poverty did not just take his belongings, it took his identity, his respect, his place in society. His stomach growled painfully, reminding him he had not eaten since morning, but his soul whispered softly, Allah is with the patient. He looked at the sky and with trembling lips and tear-filled eyes, he whispered, Ya Allah, I accept your test. I don't understand it, I trust your wisdom. I am hungry, but I won't lose faith. I am tired, but I won't give up hope. If I still have you, I have everything. Just then an old man walked by, dressed in simple clothes with a soft face and eyes full of kindness. He paused, noticing Salim's pale face and shaking hands. Without asking anything, he sat beside him, opened his small bag, and handed him a few dates and a bottle of water. Here, my son, the man said gently, it is not from me, it is from Allah. He feeds the birds in their nests and the fish in the sea. He sees you. Those words struck deep into Salim's heart. He took the dates with gratitude, whispering, Ijazakallahu khairan, and ate each date slowly, thanking Allah after every bite. Not because the dates were sweet, but because his heart tasted the sweetness of faith. Later, he performed wudu, entered the masjid, and prayed 2 rakas of gratitude, not for what he had, but for what he still had, Imaan, breath and hope. After prayer, he once again sat quietly in the masjid courtyard, watching people leave, seeing children reciting Quran, hearing the echoes of a Subhanallah and Alhamdulillah from those making tasbih. And amidst that peaceful scene, his heart found strange contentment. That night he lay outside the masjid, the stone floor cold, his shawl thin, but his heart full of warmth from the name of Allah that he repeated until his eyes slowly closed. Little did he know, destiny had already risen before the sun. The next morning after Fajr prayer, something unusual happened. A group of travelers arrived at the masjid, businessmen from another city, dressed well, discussing their plans for the day. But among them was a man named Karim, different from the rest. He had wealth, but what made him richer was his heart. He had been searching for someone, not just an employee, but someone honest, humble, and trustworthy to help run a new community tea distribution project, where struggling individuals could be trained, supported, and given small tea stalls to rebuild their lives. But he didn't just want skills, he wanted sincerity. As he walked outside the masjid, he noticed something unexpected. A man, dressed in worn-out clothes, quietly sweeping and collecting cups scattered around the masjid entrance, not because he was hired to do it, not because someone told him to, but simply because he respected the house of Allah. That man was Salim. Something about him felt different. His humility, his sincerity, his calm presence, it all tugged at Karim's heart. He walked towards him and asked, "Do you work here?" Salim looked up, smiled slightly and replied, "No, I just clean when I can. It's Allah's house." "I have no job, but I have time, so I serve how I can." Those words moved Karim more than he expected. He saw sincerity in his voice. He saw patience in his eyes. He saw trust in Allah written in his face. Karim sat beside him, and for a long time they talked. Not about money, not about business, but about life, struggle, and faith. Salim did not complain. He didn't blame anyone. He simply said, "I lost things, but I didn't lose hope in Allah. I believe Rizq doesn't come from the world. It comes from the one who owns the world." Silent tears formed in Karim's eyes. He realized this was not just a poor man. This was a man truly rich, rich in heart, rich in gratitude, rich in trust. The kind of man who could lead others because he led his own heart first, but still he didn't reveal anything. He simply stood up, shook Salim's hand, and said softly, "Meet me after dua prayer. I would like to talk to you again." Salim nodded respectfully, not knowing that this moment was the turning point, not knowing that Allah had already prepared something for him, something beyond his imagination. As the day went on, he sat quietly in the masjid corner, back against the wall, making dhikr, thanking Allah, unaware that angels might be writing down a new chapter of his life. He didn't know someone was about to trust him, honor him, and open doors of rizq he never even prayed for. He didn't know that the same masjid where he slept hungry was about to become the place where his rizq would wake up. His heart was calm, his tears sometimes warm, his Imaan steady, because those who trust Allah don't chase rizq, rizq chases them. And while people may not see your pain, Allah sees your patience. While people may not hear your cries, Allah hears your du'as. While people forget you, Allah is preparing something only for you. As the time for dua prayer approached, something was quietly waiting for him. Not just food, not just help, but destiny itself, dressed as opportunity, written by Allah, delivered at the perfect time. And this is where the story takes a beautiful turn. Salim sat quietly after dua prayer, waiting near the masjid courtyard, not with expectations, but with calm acceptance. He didn't know whether that man, Karim, would come back, or whether the invitation meant anything significant. Many people had spoken kind words before, promised help, and disappeared forever. But he wasn't waiting for people. He was waiting for whatever Allah had written. That trust kept his heart still, even as his tired body shivered from the winter breeze. Just then, Karim walked toward him with a gentle smile, carrying 2 cups of tea. He handed one to Salim, and Salim held it carefully, as if it was something precious. It had been weeks since someone offered him a hot drink with dignity, not charity. They sat facing the masjid, sipping tea, speaking about life and faith. Then Karim asked something unexpected. "If Allah gave you another chance, another livelihood, what would you do?" Salim paused, holding the warm cup near his face, breathing in its steam. He didn't answer immediately. Then, with sincerity in his voice, he said, "I would rebuild my tea stall, not just to sell tea, but to serve people with respect. I don't want to beg. I want to earn with dignity. If Allah grants me rizq, I want to serve it with honesty." Those words felt like keys unlocking something inside Karim's heart. He reached into his bag, took out a folded paper, and handed it to Salim. It was an invitation, an offer to manage and lead a new tea stall initiative for struggling workers in the community with full support, resources, and salary. Not as a worker, not as a servant, but as a leader, a supervisor, a trainer, and an example to others. Salim looked at the paper, then at Karim, confused and speechless. This must be a mistake," he whispered. Karim smiled warmly and replied, "It's not a mistake. It's your rizq. You didn't seek it. It sought you. You didn't run after it. It ran after you. Because while others saw your clothes, Allah saw your heart." Tears filled Salim's eyes. His lips trembled and he lowered his head, unable to speak. He looked down at his worn-out sandals and whispered, I have nothing, I own nothing. Karim gently placed his hand over Salim's and said, you own something people with palaces and wealth don't always have. You own real trust in Allah. That is wealth. For the first time in months, Salim cried, not from hunger, not from pain, but from gratitude. He raised his hands and whispered, Alhamdulillah. Karim then told him, there will be challenges. It won't be easy. But Allah doesn't choose the rich or the powerful for His work. He chooses the sincere, the patient, and the grateful. That evening, they walked together to the location where the new tea training center would start. A simple room with a kitchen, desks, kettles, cups, stoves, and enough space to train more than a dozen poor workers so they could open their own stalls later. Salim stood at the entrance, overwhelmed. He remembered the night he slept hungry outside the masjid, clutching his shawl, whispering his dua. He remembered the dates given by the old man. He remembered sweeping the masjid floor silently. He remembered the tears, the pain, the hunger. And now he stood inside a place where Allah turned his patience into purpose. On his first day, he wasn't given a mop or a broom or a begging bowl. He was given a notebook, keys, and responsibilities. He wasn't asked to ask for help. He was asked to give help. Within a few days, workers began to join the program. Men who had lost jobs, young boys who had no guidance, widows' sons trying to feed their families, and even former beggars trying to regain dignity. When they met Salim, he didn't introduce himself as a supervisor. He said, I was once where you are. Don't be ashamed of your struggle. Be proud of your faith. They listened, not because he had authority, but because he had sincerity. His first lesson to them wasn't about tea. It was about Tawakkul. He said, you can't boil tea without fire, and you can't build life without faith. He trained them not only to prepare tea, but to prepare their hearts, not just to serve customers, but to serve with compassion. He taught them that rizq doesn't come from customers, salaries, or shops. It comes from Allah, and those things are only doors. Word spread in the community that a humble man had started something meaningful. People visited, some donated, some volunteered. Many came to taste the tea that was served with a smile and sincerity. Within months, multiple tea stalls opened in different parts of the city under Salim's guidance, each one named a Bismillah Tea Corner. But the name was not the only reason for success. It was the blessing that came with it. Every morning before starting the day, Salim would gather everyone for dua. He would say, a house becomes a home when it remembers Allah. A job becomes rizq when it trusts Allah. A cup of tea becomes a blessing when shared with gratitude. And that's exactly how the project grew, not just in business, but in barakah, in unity, in purpose. 1 year later, Salim stood outside the same masjid where he had once spent a hungry, hopeless night. But this time, he didn't sit alone in the cold. This time, he arrived with workers he had trained, with food to share, with tea to distribute, not for profit, but for gratitude. People gathered, sitting in circles, sipping tea, smiling, talking, thanking Allah together. Some recognized Salim and were overwhelmed. The same man they once walked past, not seeing his pain, was now feeding others with grace, standing with respect, living with purpose. But Salim didn't give long speeches. He just said one thing. That night, I slept hungry outside this masjid, but Allah was preparing my rizq. Not just for me, but for many. Tears filled many eyes. Some for regret, some for realization. That night, as the moon shone softly over the masjid courtyard, Salim prayed tahajjud. He cried the same way he once did, only this time. Not out of desperation, but out of overwhelming gratitude. He whispered, Ya Allah, I asked you for a cup of tea. You gave me the honor to serve thousands. I asked you for a roof. You gave me purpose. I asked you for help. You made me someone who helps others. His tears fell softly like pearls, and perhaps the angels wrote them down like treasures. Because unseen by the world, Allah had written something remarkable for him. Not because he begged people for help, but because he called upon him who is closer than the jugular vein. And that is how Allah writes destinies, not in palaces, but in prostration, not for those who chase the world, but for those who chase faith. not for those who never fall, but for those who fall, then rise again with patience. And perhaps that is the lesson in Salim's story. Rizq is not found by chasing money. It is found by chasing the one who gives money. It is not earned by anxiety. It is released by trust. It does not arrive when we lose hope. It arrives when we surrender hope to Allah alone. The night he slept hungry was not the night Allah forgot him. It was the night Allah was preparing something greater. Because whenever Allah delays, He is not denying, He is preparing. Whenever He closes one door, He is opening another, one you didn't even know existed. And if you ever feel like Salim, lost, rejected, hungry, alone, remember your rizq might be closer than you think. It might be written in patience. It might be hidden in a door. It might be coming at the perfect time, perhaps tonight, perhaps tomorrow, but certainly when Allah wills. And when it comes, it will remind you it was always perfectly timed. So trust, be patient, and keep your heart connected to Allah, because those who trust Him never lose. Those who wait for Him never return empty-handed, and those who bow to Him never walk without His help. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, spread it, inspire someone today. Like, share, comment Allah is enough for me, and subscribe for more soulful Islamic stories. And don't forget to press the bell icon, so you never miss a reminder that increases your Imaan. Allah bless you.